The French military has recently released video of it intercepting a ship carrying 5 tons of cocaine near French Polynesia. The haul, thought to be worth more than $1 billion and bound for Australia, was dumped into the sea before the ship's crew were allowed to sail away. The President of French Polynesia has told the ABC that overcrowded prisons meant they could not prosecute the crew. Steve Symon is chair of New Zealand's Ministerial Advisory Group on Transnational, Serious and Organised Crime. He says the surge in larger shipments of drugs through the Pacific is proving hard for smaller island nations to address.
I think what we're seeing is Pacific nations struggling with the introduction of large quantities of drugs coming through the Pacific, and those countries that are trying to help them, such as France, are struggling with what to do when there aren't places to detain these people for a lifetime of imprisonment. So they're trying to look at alternative solutions, and I guess it's a debate as to whether the French model of dump it in the ocean and let the people go on their way is the right one.
Yeah, but this is, negate the sort of judicial processes that one would expect for people alleged to be trafficking, especially large quantities of drugs that were bound for, possibly New Zealand, but also Australia.
Yeah, I think we can comfortably say that quantity was either going to Australia or New Zealand or both. And what we're seeing is that the authorities are stopping these quantities on a regular basis. So we had a similar quantity stopped in Fiji only a week or so ago. And so what the authorities are doing is when they apprehend people on shore, they're arresting them and they're going through the judicial process. The approach here was slightly different because the French approached them in international waters.
Yes.
So the question is, who do they belong to?
Might this French approach either discourage or encourage cartels to continue using small Pacific Island nations as transit points?
I don't know if it will discourage them. More than anything else will. The volume of drugs that are coming through and the profits to be made from them are so high that unless we can reduce the markets in New Zealand and Australia, the demand will result in those drugs coming some way or other through the Pacific. The idea of getting rid of the drugs, I guess, is some type of deterrent. And obviously there's another deterrent, which is arresting those who are involved and detaining them. But I think we can all agree that the people that are on those ships are not the masterminds,
yes,
are the couriers. And so the question is, do we deter those who are sending the drugs from places like South America because we stop the couriers?
Yes, and which are the countries in South America where most of these drugs are coming from?
The research would suggest that the large majority of the drugs are being made out of places like Mexico. They were coming by air through Los Angeles. Now coming through narco subs from places in South America, such as Ecuador. And if anyone is looking at a map and you see how far it is from Ecuador to probably one of your nearest ports, such as Fiji, it's an incredible distance for them to go with those drugs.
Yes, and of course, the questions are Pacific nations equipped to be able to handle or be able to perhaps increase their efforts in preventing smuggling?
The answer is no. I've just been in Fiji speaking at a judicial conference. There are some incredible people doing some incredible work. But if you take Fiji as an example, there are 330 islands in Fiji. Each of them has a port which would be able to take something like a narco sub. And so each of those is an opportunity for those who have those intentions to offload drugs, put it onto another ship that is destined for Australia or New Zealand. And so there are huge problems in terms of monitoring those haystacks and trying to find the needles within them.
Yeah, and then when it comes to big hauls, seizures like these, and more that may come, the more than 5 tons we've seen in this instance, is there more that Australia and New Zealand can do or should be doing to be able to help countries like Fiji and French Polynesia?
I think so. Our Ministerial Advisory Group made recommendations in that regard, and one of the big things we're talking about is Australia and New Zealand working with the Pacific nations to come up with a strategy so that we can make the most of our combined energies to stop organised crime, so that effectively we can use, if I use the analogy of the old game battleships, we can get together our different pieces and try and block out these superhighways for drugs coming down through the Pacific to our countries.